Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we're tracing the absolutely incredible journey of a little boy named Zeph. We're going to unpack a story that starts out with some pretty scary early developmental delays, but then winds up across a chessboard. And honestly, it leads to a revelation that's going to completely flip how you think about winning, losing, and really just how we play. Let's get right into it.
Before we really get going, I want you to just think about this for a second. What is the real reason we play games with our kids? I mean, is it just to teach them the rules? Are we trying to sharpen their minds and prep them for the real world? Or is it maybe something else entirely? So keep that question in the back of your mind as we go through Zeph's early years, because the answer we get from his story is, well, it's super unexpected and honestly incredibly moving.
So to really understand Zeph's journey, we gotta go back to the beginning. We have to look at the terrifying signs his parents were seeing when he was just an infant. By the time he hit 1 year old, there were no words. Zero eye contact. He wouldn't even respond to his own name. And, as first-time parents, they were just crushed with this heavy burden of guilt. They knew they had let him watch TV and YouTube starting at around 3 months old, totally unaware of the potential harm there. And making all this fear so much worse was a diagnosis of Kawasaki disease, which is super rare when he was just 8 months old. So they're facing this massive, terrifying wall of speech and interaction delays, and their pediatrician is already telling them, look, you need a developmental specialist.
Well, the parents decided they had to do something right then and there. They made this aggressive, immediate pivot to try and rescue his cognitive development. So they put a hard rule in place: zero screen time, none. They completely swapped out the TV and YouTube for books and those tactile Montessori-style toys. But here's the real kicker. The biggest change wasn't the stuff in the room, it was the parents themselves. Because they had a hybrid work-from-home setup, they were able to just pour their time into high-connection, face-to-face interactive play. They literally transformed their house from a place of passive consumption into this highly active, engaging learning space.
And the turnaround? It was absolutely staggering. I mean, within just a few short months, Zeph actually started responding when they called his name. He started recognizing objects around him, and before they know it, he was memorizing numbers from 1 to 10, pointing out animals, shapes, colors, and even picking up the lyrics to nursery rhymes. But the absolute best part, after months and months of trying to get him to just say her name, suddenly every time he saw his mom, he was just saying "mommy" on repeat. It's a huge, powerful testament that those really hard, trial and error first couple years at parenting and all those sacrifices you make to just be present are 100% worth it when you finally see your child start to thrive.
Fast forward a bit. By age 3, Zeph's cognitive leaps were just breathtaking. Seriously, look at what he was doing. He could rattle off the entire alphabet backwards. He memorized all 50 US states in alphabetical order. You could point to pretty much any country on a globe, and this tiny 3-year-old would immediately tell you its flag and exactly where it was. It's crazy. He had gone from a toddler facing severe developmental delays to this highly intelligent kid with a mind that was just a marvel. He was practically outsmarting average adults before he even set foot in preschool.
And it was right around that exact same time, again, at just 3 years old, that this brilliant, ultra-fast mind of his collided with the complex, tactical world of the chessboard. Whenever they set up the board, his dad started noticing this distinct, undeniable sparkle in Zeph's eyes. He just took to the game so intuitively. We're talking about a 3-year-old not playing like a beginner. He's making solid intermediate moves, navigating the mid-game with this surprising level of skill. But there was a catch. He lacked one absolutely crucial element. He didn't have the finishing instinct. He just didn't quite have that final push you need to actually secure a checkmate and win the game.
So his dad decides to step in and teach him that finishing instinct. He comes up with this master plan, a very specific training pattern to quietly sharpen Zeph's skills. First step, the dad would intentionally play an opening that completely sacrificed his own queen, a handicap he was totally fine giving. Step 2, he'd maneuver his own castled king so it was completely trapped behind 3 unmoved pawns, setting up a textbook vulnerability. And then step 3 was simple. Just sit back and wait for Zeph to spot it and deliver that classic back-rank checkmate. It was this perfectly designed little lesson to teach him exactly how to exploit an obvious opening.
And at first, it worked like a charm. Zeph would spot the trap, take the checkmate, and win. Boom. But then, this really weird mystery started to unfold. As they kept playing, Zeph just stopped taking the winning move. It was the craziest thing. They would play the exact same sequence, get to the exact same setup with the trapped king, and Zeph would literally just ignore it. And this started to really deeply frustrate his dad. I mean, here he is, trying his hardest to sharpen this brilliant little mind, trying to teach his kid how to win, and it felt like Zeph was just stubbornly refusing to grasp the concept. So eventually, the frustration just gets to be too much. The dad starts making up excuses, and they end up playing chess less and less.
Well, one day, all of this tension finally boils over. 5-year-old Zeph walks right up to his dad and asks, in this very adult-like way, why they never play chess anymore. His dad decides to just be blunt and honest. He says, you just don't seem to get the game. We can play something else. But Zeph, he doesn't even flinch. He just looks his dad dead in the eye and says, let's play one more time and I'll show you. So all right, they set up the board. The familiar dance starts up again. Dad loses his queen on purpose, traps his own king, and sure enough, Zeph still doesn't take the mate. The game just drags on and on. The dad is trying so hard to be patient, but ultimately he ends up winning just because he manages to get a pawn promoted. So Zeph loses, but then he looks at his dad and asks for one more game. The dad is exhausted, ready to just accept that chess isn't his son's thing, but he agrees to one final chance. Except, before they set up the pieces, Zeph has one very specific condition.
He says that you move the pawns in front of your king early. That was it. And with that one single sentence, all of the father's frustration just completely shattered. Because right then, Zeph reveals that he wasn't missing the checkmate at all. He literally saw it the entire time. In his own 5-year-old logic, Zeph was explaining that if his dad didn't move those pawns, his dad would lose, and the game would end way too early. And Zeph simply did not want the game to end. He was purposely ignoring the winning move the whole time just because he wanted to keep playing.
And suddenly, it all just clicked. The dad recognized this incredibly sweet, kind of heartbreaking pattern across literally all of their playtime. Whenever they had sword fights, Zeph would demand they both start with 10 lives. If they were playing with robots, Zeph would suddenly invent this totally illogical rule where some new character would magically appear and heal a defeated faction for absolutely no reason at all. His dad had always just written this off as a funny little quirky kid thing. But sitting there at the chessboard, the truth was just staring him in the face. Zeph wasn't being difficult or stubborn. He was constantly bending the rules for one single purpose. He was just trying to stretch out the game so he could get a little bit more time with his dad.
This story really represents this massive paradigm shift for anyone who is a parent or a mentor. We live in this super fast-paced world, right? And we are just relentlessly focused on the end game. We want to teach the life lesson, we want to build the skills, we want to optimize our time, and we just rush to the finish line of whatever it is we're doing. And yeah, we get frustrated when the person we're trying to teach doesn't seem to care about winning as much as we do. But what we so often forget is that, to a child, connection is the true finish line. The real prize for Zeph was never about getting the checkmate. The real prize was simply the time spent sitting across that table from his dad.
So as we wrap up this explainer today, I really want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Just think about the interactions you're having every single day. Are you relentlessly focused on getting to the checkmate, on finishing the task so you can just move on to the next thing? Or are you willing to stall your pawns, maybe bend the rules a little bit, and just enjoy the connection? If there's a child in your life who wants to play right now, don't rush them to the finish line. Just put down the phone you're using right now, give them your undivided attention, and go play the long game.